Welcome to On My Way to Wealth, the podcast where busy Gen Xers can learn financial tips as they navigate life on their way to wealth. And now, please join your host, Luis Rosa.
Hello, welcome to On My Way to Wealth. My name is Luis. Now I'm your host. Thank you all for tuning in. I hope everybody's doing well. 'Tis the season to be jolly for some people, right? Tax season is here. A lot of us are getting tax refunds. So I wanted to talk to you about the top 6 places that I think you should consider to make your tax refund work for you in 2023. So let's dive right in. You probably already know what I'm going to say. The number one thing is your rainy day fund. Some people call it a rainy day fund. Some people call it an emergency fund. But the point is to have money to allow you to be able to withstand something that was unforeseen, whether it's an emergency or something that, happened in your house, your car, or perhaps getting laid off. I would consider that an emergency, right? Losing your source of revenue. It could be an illness. It could be anything like that. A lot of us have seen that, during the pandemic was highlighted because a lot of people either lost their jobs or they had to make less income as a result because they couldn't go to work, right? Recently, there's a lot of tech companies that have been laying people off. So that's also very present in the news. And for a lot of people, literally thousands of people that work for all these major tech companies have seen these unemployments that perhaps they just didn't expect. So you definitely want to have money that you set aside. Now, depends on who you ask. People talk about 3 to 6 months worth of expenses. Some people say it's 3 to 6 months worth of your actual income. Some people say, hey, listen, have at least $1,000 saved up. Whatever the case might be, but the point is as much money as you can possibly have. Yes, if you can have 6 months of your expenses or your income or a year, right? That would be amazing. But for now, if you haven't started yet and you're getting a refund, at the very least, you can put some money away for an unforeseen immediate expense, even like your car breaking down, something so that you don't have to resort to then start borrowing money from a credit card or a loan or from somebody else and then put yourself in a further situation where now you have to dig yourself out of a hole. So that is the whole concept of it. I'm a big believer of it. And I highly recommend that if you have not started a rainy day fund, that is your very first move with your tax refund to at least begin that rainy day fund. It may not be enough to make you get to where you need to be, whether it's 3 to 6 months of expenses or income. But if you get started to at least save enough for an unforeseen circumstance, that's a great start. And then you can keep adding to it later, but at least get it started. Now, there are several ways where you can save this fund. If you happen to have a large one that is 3 to 6 months of your income or expenses, very unlikely you will need all of your money at the very same time. So you can come up with strategies to make sure that money at least is earning some money. I'm sure you've heard in the news how inflation is very high right now, which makes the price of things go up. But it's actually a good thing if you are a saver, because there's a lot of opportunity out there for you to have your money make more money than usual. And there are 3 things that I wanted to share with you. One is the high yield savings accounts. Most traditional banks pay very little in interest. And if you just go online, search for high yield savings accounts, you're going to find a ton of banks out there, some of which are online banks, but that's okay because as long as they're legitimate banks and they're still FDIC insured, you can still open up an account with them and link your existing bank account in case you need to take money out. You can always just make a transfer from that bank to your actual bank when you can walk into and get money. But the concept is the high yield savings accounts, for the most part, I've seen some banks that don't have even a minimum amount required. There are no monthly fees, and they're paying somewhere in the 3 to 3.5% range, depending on the bank. Some are actually a little higher than that, which is a really good rate of interest for you to have money in a bank that isn't invested. You're not taking risk with it, and it's earning a lot more than your traditional bank would. So if you're going to have that money that is just literally sitting there for an unforeseen circumstance, for a rainy day, a high yield savings account may actually be a much better place for you to put this money than your checking or your traditional savings in your bank. So that's the first place I would look at. Second thing too is a lot of banks are offering very competitive certificates of deposits, CDs, you might know them as. And sometimes they have an even higher rate of return than these high yield savings account. And there are various terms. They usually go like 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, and so on. And the longer you have the certificate of deposit for, usually the higher the interest rate is. Now, there comes to a point where sometimes it doesn't make sense to kind of like lock up your money for too long of a time, because obviously the concept is having access to your money. Now, CDs are usually available depending on the bank. Usually you can take your money out within, even if it's before the term, but they will charge you a penalty to take your money back out. So you don't want to put it for, you don't want to buy a 5-year CD with your rainy day fund. You may look at a short-term fund, and if it's paying more than a high yield savings account, then it might make sense. Usually you will see a typical penalty be like 60 days worth of interest or something like that. So take a look at those as option 2. So high yield savings account, CDs. Another one you might have heard me talk about is the government I-bonds. As of now, they're paying 6.89% through April 30th, 2023. So any bond issued between November and then April 30th of 2023, you can still get that 6.8%, 6.89, which is really good. Now, that one is not really as liquid as a high yield savings account, which is why I was mentioning if you have a substantial amount already in the bank, it may make sense to put some money towards it. You can put up to $10,000 a calendar year. And right now it's paying 6.89%, which is really good. But you cannot touch it for the first year. And then if you take it out between years 1 and 5, you would then have a penalty of the last 3 months of interest. So I'm going to put a link in the show notes so that you can learn more about them. I also did an episode previously where I went a little bit more in depth into them. But that could be another option if you have a substantial amount of cash that is just sitting there for a rainy day. You can put a part of it in a high yield savings, maybe a part in a CD, and maybe a part of it into one of these I-bonds that you can tap into in a year for sure. But at least you get that 6.89% without taking any risk, which is pretty good, right? The stock market was down 19% last year. So 6.89% looking pretty good right now. Now, number 2, second place to make your refund work for you is if you have high interest debt. If you look at your statement from credit card, if you carry a balance or any personal loans, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of these credit cards are in the double digits. I've seen credit cards where you look at the back when you open up your statement and you see what their APR is for new purchases. Sometimes it's in the 20s, right? And yeah, nobody ever got rich borrowing at 20-something%. So if you have your emergency savings set, or at least a certain amount of money that you feel comfortable, and you have credit card debt, another great place to make your tax refund work for you is to start paying that down. Now, you can be strategic about this. Right now, I mentioned this in the first episode of the year, a lot of institutions out there, like credit card companies, are offering pretty competitive 0% APR balance transfer offers. And this might be a great opportunity for you to combine some of your tax refund with one of those 0% APR, send a chunk to the credit card, transfer the balance, and then get on a plan to pay it off between 12, 18 months without incurring any further interest. Obviously, you have to take a look at whatever fees there are, if any, for any balance transfer to see if it makes sense. But that could be another great strategy for you to do that. I get them in the mail all the time. I always shred them, but you might get them in the mail as well and maybe just think, hey, this is just junk, and not realize, hey, you know what, this actually may be a good opportunity. So maybe it makes sense for you to take one of those 0% APR balance transfer offers and combine the amount that you have with your refund, send a chunk, and then pay it off that much sooner, right? So take a look at that and see if that makes sense for you. The third thing is, if you have federal student loans and you're eligible for loan forgiveness, but you're holding off and not making payments because of the current deferment of payment, you might be able to take advantage of the fact that you have a 0% APR on those student loans. So if you're waiting for forgiveness, but you have a balance that is larger than the amount that will be forgiven anyway, then a good idea might be to send some of your tax refund towards your student loan, because now you just knocked off a bunch of the principal, If you end up getting the debt forgiven later when the Supreme Court makes its decision, perfect. You can send money, again, if you owe more than the amount that you expect to get forgiven, or if you have under the amount that's about to be forgiven, hopefully, then you can just hold on to that money to see what happens. If it doesn't get forgiven, you can send it to the student loan right before the APR kicks in again, because you want to make sure that you send it to the principal so that you lower the principal amount before the interest rate kicks in on your current balance, right? So that could be another strategy, something to think about. Number 4 is investing in general. You want to become an investor if you aren't already, or you want to diversify where you're investing your money currently for you and your family. So one thing I talk about, I'm a big fan of, is a Roth IRA. I recently spoke about this in episode 134. So I go into further detail into it, but just to give you the gist of it, in a Roth IRA, you put after-tax dollars, and if you follow certain rules, typically you hold it for 5 years, you wait to age 59 and a half, all that money will be tax-free when you take it out. Right now, the limit in 2023 is $6,500 a year. For those that are ages 50 and older, is $7,500 a year. For tax year 2022 is $6,000 a year with a $1,000 catch-up contribution for ages 50 and older, so $7,000 total. The great news is that if you have not put money towards your Roth IRA for 2022 or haven't completely taken advantage of the max, you actually have until the tax filing deadline of 2023 to still contribute and make a prior year contribution towards 2022. So that could be a great opportunity to take some of that refund and fund your Roth IRA for the prior year. Excellent way to put your money to work for you. You have to check the income limits, so check out episode 134 where I go into more details, but it depends on your tax filing status and your income, whether or not you qualify. And then there are some workarounds as well, but go to episode 134, check out the details on that. Now, 529 plans, they used to be only for higher education, and now they go for K through 12 education. But ultimately, though, even if you don't use them for high school, K through 12, it's a great opportunity for you to think about how to set your kids up for a better financial future. Generational wealth isn't necessarily all about leaving people money in a sense. It's also leaving them the tools and some resources. So, for example, if your kids are very young right now and you have the opportunity to start funding at 529 and you make it systematic and consistently, you can make it where you have enough money to then pay for the cost of school by the time it's their turn to go to college. Now, imagine giving your kids the gift of graduating with no student loan debt. That is quite the gift, where they can graduate college and immediately go into the workforce and have zero debt. That is amazing, as opposed to graduating just burning with debt that they're going to take into their 40s and 50s, perhaps, right? Or look at it this way. You'll be giving yourself the opportunity to not have to borrow Parent Plus loans or start paying your kids' colleges and neglecting your own retirement. Right? So it's also a gift to yourself. So in a sense, you're empowering the whole family, right? You're giving the ability for your kids to start off on the right foot with no student loan debt, and you're giving yourself the opportunity to continue to save for your retirement and not be burdened with parent loan debt or having to take money that you normally would have saved for your own retirement to start paying your kids' education. So another great resource there. Number 5 is protecting you and your family. A lot of us sometimes neglect the fact that we should be looking at ways to protect what we currently own, because that is another way of maintaining your net worth. Because if anything happens that would take away some of the things that you already own, that's going to make your net worth go down, right? And you don't want to put yourself in a situation. So let me give you an example. One of them is life insurance. If you have people, like the most common reason why people get life insurance, there are many reasons, but one of the most common ways is if people depend on your income to survive, right? Or if you weren't around, they couldn't get by, or a certain goal couldn't be met, right? Paying off a mortgage, paying off education, whatever the case might be. So maybe this is an opportunity right now. If you are not insured or if you're underinsured, then, speak to a financial planner, see if you actually need insurance. If so, what type of policy will be better for you, what kind of coverage you need. But it would be a great opportunity for you to buy that policy now, maybe with your tax refund, because maybe you don't have room in your budget to pay for it right now, but you have this refund coming your way. You might be able to fund the entire thing for the whole year. And maybe you make it a habit of paying your insurance premium every year with the tax refund. That could be part of what you use your refund for. A lot of us have insurance through our jobs, but that sometimes is inadequate because it's usually just a percentage or a certain amount of times your salary. So I've seen policies with employers where it's like, oh, you get 3 times your salary, 4 times your salary. That may not necessarily be enough insurance. So you want to make sure that you are covered and that you're leaving your family protected. Another thing too that people tend to overlook is a personal liability policy, an umbrella policy. You might have heard the term umbrella. This is a policy that you can buy so that it kind of supplements the coverages that you already have on your existing policies, whether it's your auto or your home. So if you're a homeowner, or if you have assets and you have a car and you're driving around, right, you want to make sure that you have enough insurance coverage. The amount of coverage that you have for your auto and home might be by themselves adequate, but you also have to think, if you were to get, for example, in a car accident and you were found at fault and somebody sues you for more than the limits on your current policy and they win, you'll be on the hook for the difference that your insurance doesn't cover, right? So you want to make sure that you have an umbrella policy. Pretty inexpensive, It might just be $100 and something or a couple of $100 depending on the coverage that you get. But this is something that you want to look into, having an umbrella policy to cover your existing assets, right? And add supplement to your existing homeowners and your auto as well. And people that don't own homes, if you don't have renter's insurance, this might be a good opportunity as well to just buy yourself a renter's insurance policy. Some landlords require, some landlords just highly recommend it. If you don't have it, it's actually a good thing to have, because you just never know. There might be something that could happen where the landlord's policy may not necessarily cover your contents, like a flood or something. We've seen all these crazy events now, crazy weather everywhere. So you want to make sure that you're covered, right? So protect yourself. So it could be a life insurance policy, an umbrella policy, or any other type of policy that might cover you, that you feel like you might need. It could be even disability policy. But just think about protecting yourself. Last but not least, investing in yourself. And some people will find it surprising when I speak to them because it entails spending money on things that are not necessarily the traditional way that a financial planner will look at it, right? Like it's not about investing or saving on taxes, So I'm talking about investing in yourself. And that really could be anything, from your mental health to your physical health. So let me give you some examples, say you've been working super hard, going hard. When was the last time that you ever had a massage? Have you had a massage? That may be a great way for you to take some of your tax refund, just treat yourself to a spa day, right? Why not? Get rid of some of that stress, re-strengthen yourself so that you can continue to give your best. What about a vacation? When was the last time you took a vacation? I know because of the pandemic, a lot of people had not traveled in a very long time. Maybe now with the refund, you have the opportunity to take some of that money and go on that vacation that you've been planning for a while. Just get back out there and get your mind right? Relieve some stress, come back, and you'll be that much stronger for it. What about, it could be something as small as just going out to a nice dinner that you normally don't go to, whether it's with your spouse or with your family. It could be a weekend getaway. The point is to rejuvenate yourself in whatever brings you happiness, right? I find that is actually investing in yourself. Not saying that, okay, I'm just going to use that as an excuse and just go blow the whole refund on something, but you can look at it that way. And again, it doesn't necessarily need to be something that way. It could also be where you're investing in something. If you have a passion, if you want to learn a new language, maybe you can buy an app or subscribe to an app where you can learn that new language. Or maybe there's an instrument that you used to play when you were a kid and you want to get back into it. Maybe you could buy that guitar, or that flute, or whatever now. What about improving your skills for something that will make you more marketable at work? Maybe that's a certification that you've been looking to get. Maybe now is the time to use that refund money, sign up for that online course, sign up for that coaching class, sign up for that certification. Something that you've always wanted to do, that it's just going to make you improve your skills, make you more marketable, and maybe in the future might turn into a better opportunity, whether it's a raise or, just a different title at work and so on, right? So think about it. It could even be something like doing a more in-depth health checkup. I'm a big believer in that stuff. There's a lot of things that your traditional insurance doesn't cover, right? So I've seen like these very in-depth blood exams where they examine above and beyond the normal health checkup that you get every year with your doctor, right? They're not covered by insurance. And there could be a couple of $100, but you know what? I think it's a good investment to find out how all these things are working. And that way, if there's an opportunity for you to improve your health, because ultimately, the better you can operate, you'll be given from a position of strength. And then you can be better for your family, for yourself, right? Not burning the candle on both ends, like people say. So that could be another way. One of the greatest investments you can make is in yourself, right? So don't overlook that. So as a recap, 6 things to make your refund work for you: savings, right? Emergency savings, rainy day, paying high interest debt, maybe sending some of that to the federal student loans, or waiting until see what happens with the forgiveness. Investing, whether it's a Roth IRA or a 529 plan for your kids' college, protecting you and your families, life insurance, umbrella policies, and so on. And then investing in yourself, whether it's for a new skill or just to relieve some stress, rejuvenate, and make yourself just that much stronger in 2023. So I hope you find this information useful. Stay tuned for some great content coming up. I have some great guests coming up lined up this year. As always, if you have any questions, send me an email, luis@onmywaytowealth.com. Check out the new website, onmywaytowealth.com. And also, if you're listening to this, I do have a YouTube channel as well at On My Way to Wealth, so check it out. So you can see me on video live as I do this as well, recording simultaneously. So thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you for listening to On My Way to Wealth. If you have any questions, please send me an email at luis@onmywaytowealth.com. The information provided here is for information and education purposes only. The opinions expressed herein are solely those of myself, unless otherwise specifically cited. Material presented is believed to be from reliable sources, and no representations are made by my firm or myself about other parties' information or accuracy or completeness. All information or ideas provided should be discussed in detail with a financial advisor, accountant, or legal counsel prior to implementation. Thank you.